The void of space had never been silent to miners' machines. Comms, oxygen recyclers, all kept a constant rhythm, a beat that reassured the crew they were alive. But this silence, when it came, swallowed everything. The Destrunner floated in orbit over the dying world below, a planet marked by tectonic upheaval and the skeletal remains of its once thriving civilizations. To its crew, the sight was haunting, but it was the derelict vessel beside them that froze them in awe and terror. Captain Voss Harker, a towering figure with scars mapping his face, peered out from the observation deck at the alien structure. Its design was utterly foreign, resembling a living organism stretched into the form of a ship, with membranous walls, twisting corridors, and pulsing ridges that seemed almost like veins. There were no lights, no engines, yet it loomed closer every hour, moving with a purpose that should have been impossible. "Captain," came the voice of his chief engineer, J.L. Nim, over the comms. Her voice trembled, something Voss had never heard from her. There's something alive in there. It's humming, like a heart." Voss didn't answer right away. He too had heard it, an almost imperceptible thrum beneath his feet, a whisper at the edge of his senses. It was as if the ship were calling to him, daring him to explore its secrets. "Crew meeting in 10 minutes, he ordered, breaking the spell. "We decide what to do together." The crew of the Destrunner gathered in the narrow mess hall, the cramped space intensifying the atmosphere of dread that had settled over them. Kellen Rook, the youngest and sharpest-eyed among them, whispered, "That thing wasn't here when we started orbiting, was it?" "I swear it wasn't." Voss shot him a look. "We don't know what it is or how it got here, but we need to check if it's a threat." Jael crossed her arms, her usual bravado masked by unease. "There's no power source, no weapon systems that we can detect, nothing. But it's like it wants us to come closer. I feel it." Voss hesitated. He was no stranger to space horror stories, tales of ships disappearing in the dead of space, of strange entities hitching rides on unwitting freighters. But this was real, right before him. "I'll lead an exploratory team," he said, forcing a calmness he didn't feel. "We'll be careful. Stick to short-range comms only. The second anything seems wrong, we pull out." Voss, Jael, and Kellen donned their suits, the slick, form-fitting armor providing a sense of security against the unknown. They activated their helmets, the HUD flickering to life with oxygen levels, temperature, and heart rates. As they stepped into the ship's organic airlock, Voss felt the subtle pull intensify, as though an invisible hand guided him deeper into the vessel. His hands instinctively hovered over his blaster. The walls of the vessel undulated slightly, their organic structure feeling more like flesh than metal. Trails of bioluminescent fluid ran along the walls, casting eerie, pulsing shadows across the floor. "It's like stepping into the belly of a beast," Kellen whispered, voice shaky. But Jael was transfixed. "It's beautiful. In a way. Like an alien ecosystem, almost sentient." As they moved deeper, the vessel's hum grew louder, throbbing in sync with their heartbeats, whispering just below comprehension. The words were almost clear, as if something just beyond their senses called them forward. And then, Voss heard it, a voice, soft, chilling. "Come closer." His heart skipped, and he whirled around, blaster ready, but there was only silence. Just the flickering shadows and the faint glow of the walls. "Did anyone hear that?" he asked, voice tight. Jael nodded slowly. "A voice. It said my name." They exchanged looks, faces pale beneath the helmet visors. The whispers grew louder, clearer. They promised understanding, knowledge, and a power beyond human comprehension. Each voice was a siren song, calling them to explore deeper, to learn, to give in. And that's when Kellen disappeared. One moment he was behind them, his flashlight illuminating the organic walls. The next he was gone, his voice nothing but a fading echo. "Kellen," Jael screamed, her voice a tremor of panic. "Where are you?" The comms crackled, a faint whisper coming through, too distorted to make out. Voss tried to raise Kellen on all channels, but only silence answered. He's gone," Jael stammered. "Just vanished." Voss clenched his jaw. "Stay close. If this place is alive, it's playing with us." As they moved deeper into the ship, they noticed the faces' faint imprints in the walls, as if something, or someone, was trapped within. The faces contorted in silent agony, their mouths open in eternal screams. And as they passed, Voss swore he saw the eyes following him, pleading. A shadow slipped through the corridor ahead, moving with the speed of a predator. Jael's breathing quickened as she caught sight of it. "Something's in here with us, Captain." They pressed on, the only sounds now their own shallow breathing and the pulse of the ship, which grew more intense with each step. Suddenly Jael stopped, her eyes widening. "Did you hear that?" Voss strained his ears, and then he heard it, too, a familiar voice, warped but unmistakable. "Kellen," it said, pleading, "help me. It hurts." They followed the voice into a vast chamber, a place where the walls seemed to open up, revealing towering, organic pillars that stretched toward a ceiling shrouded in darkness. In the center, suspended by tendrils of bioluminescent tissue, was Kellen, eyes wide, mouth open in silent terror. The tendrils were connected to his suit, pulsating with life as they siphoned something from him, leaving him pale and gaunt. "Kellen," Jael rushed forward, but Voss held her back. The ship was feeding on him. "Kellen?" Voss whispered, horror gnawing at him. Kellen's eyes met Voss's, the fear in them unmistakable. "Captain, don't listen. The voices, they—" And then he screamed, a raw, primal sound that tore through the chamber. The tendrils twisted tighter, drawing every ounce of life from him until his skin sagged, his eyes glassy and hollow. Jael turned to Voss, her voice barely above a whisper. "We need to leave. Now." But as they turned to retreat, the corridor closed in around them, the walls shifting, sealing them in. The ship itself was alive, reshaping to trap them, its whispers now a cacophony of promises, threats, and laughter. Voss fired his blaster at the walls, but the energy only seemed to make them pulse harder, like an irritated animal. A shadowy figure appeared at the edge of their vision, moving with unnatural speed and grace. It was humanoid but twisted, its skin a sickly, translucent membrane stretched over visible veins and organs, pulsating in rhythm with the ship. Its face was an amalgam of the Kruzak, Kellen's eyes, Jael's mouth, even hints of Voss himself. The figure opened its mouth, and from it came Kellen's voice, pleading, help me, and then laughing, a distorted, monstrous sound. They ran, navigating the ship's twisting corridors, every turn a trap, every shadow a potential horror. The whispers grew louder, drowning out their thoughts, their wills, their very sense of self. Jael stumbled, and in an instant, the shadowy figure was upon her, its tendrils wrapping around her body. She screamed as it sank into her skin, merging with her, absorbing her thoughts, her memories. Voss could only watch, helpless, as Jael's face twisted into a silent scream, her body contorting as the figure became her. He turned and fled, the thing in Jael's form following, its footsteps a sickening squelch against the fleshy floor. Voss reached the airlock, his heart pounding as he fumbled with the control panel, desperately trying to open it. The whispers were a roar now, voices overlapping, promising escape, understanding, eternal life. All he had to do was give in. The creature reached him, standing just beyond arm's reach. Its face twisted, morphing from Jael to Kellen, and then to something else entirely an alien, ancient, malevolent. Voss forced himself to look away, focusing on the control panel. His fingers flew over the buttons, overriding every safety protocol he could remember. The airlock began to cycle open, and with a surge of adrenaline, Voss threw himself through, slamming the emergency release. He stumbled back into the destrunner, collapsing as the door sealed shut. His suit's oxygen levels were dangerously low, but he forced himself to look back through the viewport. The alien ship pulsed with a slow, rhythmic light, as if breathing, watching him with an almost sentient malice. And then, as if mocking him, it began to drift closer, inching toward the destrunner. Desperate, Voss activated the thrusters, propelling the destrunner away. The alien ship followed, its whispers reaching him even through the thick hull of his own vessel. Each promise, each temptation clawed at his mind, but he clung to his will. He activated the destrunner's auto-detonation sequence, his hand hovering over the confirmation. Just before he pressed it, the whispers ceased, replaced by a single, chilling message. "We will find you. We are inside you, Captain." With a final scream of defiance, Voss triggered the sequence, and the destrunner burst into a blinding light, disintegrating into the void. Drifting through space in his escape pod, oxygen dwindling, Voss stared out into the endless void, feeling the cold tendrils of terror and helplessness sink in. The whispers were silent, but he could still feel them, a faint echo deep within his mind. As the darkness closed around him, he realized the ship's final promise had been no lie. They were inside him,